In previous lessons, you discussed what a quadratic function is and how to graph it, how to identify transformations. In this lesson 11.2, we will be focusing on how to solve a quadratic equation. First of all, before starting, let's remember an equation means we need to see an equal sign. What is a quadratic equation? A quadratic equation is always in the form of a x to the power of 2 plus bx plus c equals 0. Since it is a quadratic equation, this means that we need to find a value of x. X equals a number. Keep in mind that a could be 1 or different than 1. To solve a quadratic equation, you have two methods, either using factorization, and this is usually useful when the quadratic equation can be factored, and when a equals 1, it would be the easiest. And the other method is solving by using a quadratic formula, and using the quadratic formula works for any quadratic equation, and this will be explained later. Let's solve the following quadratic equation. X squared plus 3x equals negative 2. Step number 1 in solving any quadratic equation is make sure that all the terms are on one side and they are equal to 0. So first we're going to move the negative 2 to the other side. Make sure when you move a term to the other side to change its sign. So we're going to have x squared plus 3x plus 2 equals 0. Step number 2 is factorizing the following equation. To factorize it, we will have two factors. Both factors are equal to 0. X squared, so x in the first factor and x in the second factor. Now, we need to find two terms. They give me a product of 2 and a sum of plus 3. They are 2 and 1, both with a positive sign. After we factored this quadratic equation, we have to use the zero product property, or what is also known as the null factor law. The null factor law states that if we have two factors, they are equal to 0. This means that either the first factor is equal to 0, or the second factor equal to 0, or both are equal to 0. Some books they call the null factor law, others the zero product property. What does that mean? This means if x plus 2 multiplied by x plus 1 is equal to 0, this means that I can write x plus 2 is equal to 0 and x plus 1 is also equal to 0. Now simply we solve for x. This means that x is equal to negative 2. This is my first solution. My second solution is x is equal to negative 1. The second, or actually the third step, would be checking my answers. This means that I need to check both x minus 2 and x minus 1. I'm going to start with checking x minus 2. So x squared is replaced by negative 2 to the power of 2 plus 3 multiplied by negative 2 plus 2. We're testing if it is equal to 0. We have 4 minus 6 plus 2. Again, testing it if it's equal to 0. 6 minus 6 is definitely equal to 0. So x equals negative 2 is a solution. Now I will check x minus 1. So negative 1 to the power of 2 plus 3 into negative 1 plus 2. Again, is it equal to 0? 1, negative 3 plus 2, is it equal to 0? 3 minus 3 is equal to 0, so x minus 1 is also a solution of x squared plus 3x plus 2. So this quadratic equation has two solutions, -2 and -1. Now we go for example 2. Example 2 is x squared minus 3x equals 4. To solve it again, step number 1, moving the 4 to the other side, changing its sign. So I have x squared minus 3x minus 4 is equal to 0. Again, I need to find two factors. Step number 2, factorizing. X in the first factor and x in the second factor, both factors are equal to 0. I need to find two terms that have a product of -4 and a sum of -3. That would be -4 and +1. Step number 3 would be applying the zero product property or the null factor law, which means take each factor equal to 0. So first factor, x minus 4 equals to 0. Second factor, x plus 1 equals to 0. Step number 4, solve for x. X equals 4, that would be my first solution. And x equals -1, that would be my second solution. Our coming step would be checking those solutions in the quadratic equation. I'll start with x equals 4. 4 to the power of 2 minus 3 multiplied by 4 minus 4, testing it if it's equal to 0. 16 minus 12 minus 4, is it equal to 0? So I have 16 minus 16 is for sure equals to 0. This means that x equals 4 is a solution. We're gonna test x equals -1. Again, I have -1 to the power of 2 minus 3 into -1 minus 4, is it equal to 0? So 1 plus 3 minus 4, is it equal to 0? 4 minus 4 is for sure equal to 0. Then x equals -1 is also a solution for the given quadratic equation. So for the given quadratic equation, we have two solutions, x equals 4 and x equals -1. Our third example would be x squared minus 10x plus 25 equals 0. Step 1 means move all the terms to one side. I don't need to do this step because they're already on one side. Step number 2 is factorizing. Again, factorizing means finding two factors. Both factors are equal to 0. Another example is x squared minus 10x plus 25 equals 0. We need to solve it. We need to find the value of x. Step number 1, making sure all the terms are on one side. I do not need to do this step because I already have all my terms on one side. Step number 2 would be factorizing the following equation. To factorize it, I have two factors, both are equal to 0. X with x, I need to find two terms with a product of 25 and a sum of -10. There would be -5 and a -5. As you notice over here that both factors are the same, x minus 5. I can also write it as x minus 5 to the power of 2 is equal to 0. Using the null factor law or zero product property, that means each factor is equal to 0. But here both factors are the same. I only need to write x minus 5 equals to 0. This means x is equal to 5. as you can notice here, I don't have two solutions. I only have one solution, which is x equals 5, because both factors are the same. We need to check our answer. This means that 5 to the power of 2 minus 10 multiplied by 5 plus 25, is it equal to 0? 25 minus 50 plus 25, is it equal to 0? We have 50 minus 50 is for sure equal to 0. So this means that x equals 5 is the only solution of the given quadratic equation.